Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Happy New Year. Don't drag my wig, I really like it. She was $38 off of Amazon, so we're rolling with it. Today I kind of wanted to get into a little bit of a viral moment on TikTok, and essentially the question at hand was, why do people feel like, marriage is too much of a commitment but like children isn't? And I kind of stitched it and basically let them know when I was doing a research paper a few years back that women specifically are more likely to have children when they're aware that they're not going to achieve certain things that would be considered milestones to society, like getting married, going to college, getting your dream house or apartment, traveling the world, so on and so forth. And so their version of adulthood is having a child. And so essentially, I just wanted to talk about how pregnancy and motherhood are very much so romanticized. And if more young girls and women were aware of exactly what pregnancy and motherhood would entail, they wouldn't do it. I personally, I am a child-free woman. I have no intentions on a baby ever exiting my body, and I made sure of that. And also, I just don't want to parent. Like, it doesn't look fun. I tell people who are moms all the time, like, their life doesn't look fun to me. And that's okay, because there are some people who, they love being moms and they love being parents, and I love that for them. But you always get met with some type of backlash from people who are parents, who are mothers, who basically just kind of feel like, well, being a mother is my whole identity and it should be yours too. No, ma'am. So I just kind of want to start off with the amount of research that I did for myself to solidify that I did not want children. I wish that more women specifically would do that research as well. I kind of feel like because society has romanticized pregnancy and motherhood, they make women feel like, oh, it's something that you're just going to do. And they don't make it seem like it's really a choice or an option. They kind of make it seem like, okay, well, this is going to be something that's going to happen eventually, right? So I just kind of wish that women would do the research, figure out the statistics, figure out what it's really going to be like. And I also wish more women who are mothers right now, who are participating in motherhood, would talk more about it. I feel like if they were to talk more about it, that would also stray women away. And I feel like there's just not enough studies on women who really don't enjoy it. Like, there's one book regarding motherhood, which I've read cover to cover, thoroughly analyzed. But it's just kind of the simple fact that we're not getting enough information from other people who have done it, who aren't lying, right? Because you hear people all the time, well, I have to do this, I have to do that, and then, all these negative things, and then they turn around, but I wouldn't change a thing. And it's just kind of like, some women would, and that's okay, but we need more women to be honest about the fact that they would change a thing. And that's really what's getting a lot of women trapped and caught up now, whether they have a husband or no husband, partner or no partner, significant other or not, relationship or not. A lot of women are really essentially being tricked into motherhood. They have been this entire time, if we're being completely honest about it. They have been this entire time. There are several times when people talk about, oh, you don't have a family until you have children, or you don't know real love until you have a child, stuff like that. And it's just kind of like, so what I'm hearing is, because I have a loving partner and a loving cat and two great dogs, and a mom who loves me and cousins who I talk to every day, like, you're basically telling me because I don't have a child, I don't have a family. Or, you don't know real love until you have a child. Well, if I don't know real love until I have a child, that basically means that, your child doesn't really love you for real until they have a child. There's so many different ways to come at it. And it's just kind of like, I feel like, it's a way for people to kind of justify that they've done something. But one of the things I said in the TikTok is, it's very easy to get pregnant when you are somebody whose body does it. You don't have any infertility issues. We're not talking about people with infertility issues, because that they are not the majority, right? So when we talk about the majority and we talk about the people who just can, have a child, no issues about it, it's not hard to conceive a child. I'm not saying it's not hard to raise a child. We're not talking about the raising of, we're just talking about getting pregnant. So when people get pregnant and kind of make it their personality trait and make it the, oh well, I've been pregnant, so I can do it all. It's just kind of like, you've, no shame no tea, but you've done one of the easiest things that somebody can do, because everybody can do it. Not everybody can be a nail technician. That takes a certain skill set. Not everybody can be a doctor, whether it's an MD or a PhD. It's a different type of skill set, takes a certain skill set. Not everybody can be a plumber. Different type of skill set. But damn near everybody who has the ability, reproductive wise, to get pregnant can get pregnant, can carry a child to term, can have said baby. For the most part, I know that there are, women who die during pregnancy. I know that Black women are 3 to 4 times more likely to die. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the average, everyday person. We also have to talk about the fact that a lot of people, who are on the fence about having children, hear from somebody else, will just have one. And if you have that one, you'll love it. But the amount of women in my comments from the one TikTok that really made a lot of, just created a lot of conversation, is that a lot of them are one and done, because they're like, it's just not for them and they can't imagine doing it again. And they just don't really see them having more than one child. But we have this connotation that once you have one, you want to have more. And a lot of women don't want to have the more that is being talked about, but nobody really gives women a safe space to talk about the fact that they didn't enjoy pregnancy, that they don't enjoy motherhood, that they don't plan on, having another child. And I feel like it just sets women up in a negative way to oh well, she's a bad mom, she's a bad parent, da 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 da. Like, you don't have to be a bad parent to know that you never want to do that again. We also have to think about that when we talk about romanticizing pregnancy and motherhood, we have to talk about the fact that they've also villainized, being child-free, being without child. You always hear about, whether it be movies, TV shows, oh, the cat lady, oh, she's bitter because she never had any kids, yada yada yada, when in reality, childless single women are the happiest demographic for women. And so it's just kind of like, when you think about it, it's like, okay, well, why were they pushing this narrative so long that women who do not have children are so angry and so bitter? And it's just kind of like, you sometimes have to wonder where they got their research, if they didn't need their evidence, if they didn't need, the facts, so on and so forth. But it also just kind of, you can lie with statistics. You can gather up a bunch of women who didn't have children, who, wanted to have children. And that may have been where they gotten all of their information, where they got the statistics, so on and so forth. So it's just a simple fact that I feel like now on social media, and at first I thought it was just because, I was looking for, child-free this and child-free that. But after a while, it just started to be something that was just there. Women, talking about how much they really do enjoy not having any children. Some of them not having any children or a spouse. They talk about how they have more disposable income. They talk about how they have more free time. They talk about how they don't have to go through the things that their friends with children and with a significant other are going through. I, for one, feel like I have a hell of a lot more freedom in anything I do. It's the reason why I have the ability to either change careers so often, or just take my time with careers, or just, realize that I don't have to have one at all. I could get a job that pays me whatever it is I desire to be paid per month, and have no desire to move up the ladder, have no desire to be in charge, have no desire to be, upper management or anything like that, because I don't have to. We often don't talk about how much money it costs to have children. One child is already going to run you $300,000 in necessities, right? We don't talk about what it might run you for wants, okay? We don't talk about how much it might run you if your child plays a sport, if they're into an extracurricular activity, okay? And then on top of that, we also don't talk about the bare minimum that is required to provide for children. So it's just kind of like, I feel like a lot of people have this connotation of, oh, I'm just going to have a child and everything's going to fall together. And it's not. It is. I don't want to say it's not. I don't want to be that person, but it's more so it doesn't fall together. You have to work for it to be together. Unlike a lot of women with children, I have the ability to get up and go whenever I please. I have the ability to just kind of dilly-dally for a lot longer than the average person with children can. I basically have the freedom. I have freedom forever. A lot of people don't have freedom forever, but I have freedom forever solely because I decided I don't want to have children. And people aren't really aware. A lot of people aren't really aware of like the amount of freedom that you no longer have when you have children. And one of the books that I did read, I can't remember which one it was. I don't remember if it was Childfree by Choice or Regretting Motherhood or The Baby Matrix. But there was one couple specifically who had like, they've done all their traveling, they waited to have kids, they lived in like a condo in a metropolitan. And when they decided to have children, when they were like, we're ready for this, they were aware that they were going to lose freedom, but there were certain things that they had absolutely positively no idea that they weren't even going to be able to do anymore. They didn't realize that they wouldn't be able to live even slightly similar to the same lifestyle anymore. And another reason why I don't want to have children is just because I want to be able to have the ability to have a really loving relationship with my significant other. You can have a really strong marriage and still some way, somehow having children can't interfere with that. And I'm not saying interfere in the sense of boom, you're divorced, but more so you're never going to be in that same loving patch ever again. And when I say that, you could be on a scale of you and your partner at 100% when it comes to a loving, intimate relationship, and then say after you have kids, maybe it's 90 or maybe it's 85 or maybe it's 80, and it's just kind of like, I don't want fractions, I want the whole thing. And it's just more so, some of us just want to keep our man, our money, and our body to ourselves, or our woman, our money, and our body to ourselves, or are they our money and our body to ourselves? And while we're on the topic of like bodies, that was another big thing for me. I didn't want to have to share my body incubating another body. I did not like the idea of the changes that a lot of women's bodies make. I do not like the idea that some of these changes may never go back to normal. I am an esthetician. I had a client who had a set of twins and her children are grown, they're 16. And she said to me that she's still learning her body to this day. She said her body has never been the same. And we can't really say that's a good or a bad because I didn't want to pry, but it's more so the simple fact that you get on Twitter and you get on TikTok, the women are talking about what's happened to their bodies during pregnancy, and that's not really something that I'm willing to go through or participate in. There was just a TikTok the other day about, them saying, well, I understand, the pro of pregnancy is, that you get the baby, but what are the other pros? And a lot of the moms were just like, the baby. There was no other pro. I know a lot of people talk about, the pregnancy glow, but that doesn't happen to everybody. I know people who have gone through it via pregnancy, and it's just kind of like, I can't imagine having to deal with that when I don't want to. Then you also have to think about the fact that, okay, not only do you have to carry this human in your body, but you're probably going to end up doing more of the child rearing, right? So you're already doing the child bearing, but now you have to do a majority of the child rearing. I talked about this in the TikTok, but men are more likely to pick up overtime or a hobby so that they're less likely to be at the house when the first child is born. Women are less likely to get offered promotions, and the small fraction of women who do get offered promotions, they usually turn it down because they feel like they can't balance their home life and, the additional promotion. We also have to talk about the fact that the gender wage gap, it's really aimed toward women with children, right? Because women without children, although there's still a wage gap, it's 93 cents to every dollar a white man makes, but women with children make 78 cents to every dollar that white men make. So they're already counting on you not being able to come in early because maybe little Timmy had to go to a doctor's appointment. They're already calling on you possibly having to leave early because little Timmy got sick at school. They're thinking about the fact that, what if we're in the middle of a pandemic. A lot of women had to quit their jobs because it was cheaper for them to stay home and watch their children than it would be to pay for childcare during a pandemic. And so it's just kind of like, and these things are still happening. And obviously, we're in the middle of Omarion. And so it's even harder now, the idea of, kids going back to school. Some colleges are already shutting down. So it's like, okay, well, will high schools and middle schools and elementary schools follow suit as well? Will the children not be going back? So it's just like, the people who need to work from home, or the people who do work from home, you know, and they were relying on their children being in school, a lot of women are probably going to quit their jobs again because they need to have somebody watching their children. And maybe their children are not school age children. You know, they talk about all the time. I think they said that the average daycare bill is about $1,000 a month. And so it's just kind of like, none of this stuff is falling on the men. Majority of this stuff is not falling on the men, we'll say that. Because there are some men who are the primary caretakers. But for the most part, a lot of this stuff is not falling on men, it's falling on women. Women, you know, we don't get to go back to work right away, or we don't get to do X, Y, Z, but men, they're gone at work, living life, going to their hobbies that we talked about, and so on and so forth. And the women are just in the house, taking care of the kids, making sure dinner's ready on the table, you know, and they're still going to work, right? So women are still going to work and making sure they're picking the kids up from school, and making sure they're getting them to soccer practice, and making sure they pick them up from soccer practice, bring them to the house, make sure dinner's on the table. They're helping with homework, and the men are minding their business. They're minding their business. And I know a lot of women are like, oh, well, that won't be, you know, our dynamic, you know, we'll have a plan and da-da-da-da, and I respect that. I am here for it. But in 2019, there was a survey that basically talked about how a lot of, you know, relationships, marriages, two people who are married, they decide, okay, you know, everything will be 50-50. But once that first child comes into the world, they are more likely to revert back to traditional gender stereotypes, right? So they are more likely to revert back to the women doing the majority of stuff and men not. And then you have people who, okay, the kids are, let's say the youngest is 5, you have 3, the oldest is 10. The kids kind of know, like, there's only one parent that they can really rely on, and the one parent most of the time is mom. Because you have men, you know, when women do try to get their husbands on board, and we'll just use a heterosexual relationship, when women do try to get their husbands on board, men utilize weaponized incompetence. So we've all heard of weaponized incompetence. They utilize that and make it seem like, well, they have no idea to do any of this stuff, or, you know, they don't know how to get the kids to practice or pick them up from the doctor's appointment, and so on and so forth. And that weaponized incompetence allows not only the men to get out of the responsibilities, but it lets the children know, okay, there's only one parent I can depend on, and it's mom. So now, not only is, you know, even if dad was helping out in their mind, in the children's mind, they can only depend on mom. And that's what also puts the load on a lot of women, not to, you know, mention, you know, just the mental load that a lot of women take on. I also want to touch on how a lot of child-free people are met with, you know, oh, you're selfish, you don't want to have kids, da-da-da-da-da. And I just want to be the first one to point out that they're not selfish, they're self-interested. And when you are self-interested, it basically means that you're making the type of, I don't want to say moves, but you're just making the type of decisions in your life that are going to best fit your interest, right? But when we talk about selfish, we don't really talk about how a lot of people who have children have them for selfish reasons. The people who are having the children for selfish reasons, I want a mini-me, selfish reason. Okay, I just want to know what it's like to take care of somebody, selfish reason. Oh, they're gonna love me back, selfish reason. It's gonna keep my partner in my life, selfish reason. We often don't talk about it, but realistically, when you're having a child, the only reason to have a child is because you want to nurture and take care of somebody for the rest of your life. Everybody is stuck on these 18-year things. Baby, I'm 26 and I still live in my mom's house, okay? Granted, I've dipped and dabbed in apartments here and there, but as of right now, I still live in my mom's house. And so for people to think that there is, you know, just 18 years and then you're done, you're never done. Your kids are going to be calling you forever. So it's just kind of like people are having these children for selfish reasons and not acknowledging that the reasons are selfish. In one of the books that I read, Childfree by Choice, the author had surveyed like older men as to why they wanted to have children. And the survey basically pointed out that a majority of said men wanted to have children because they felt like they weren't getting the satisfaction in their job that they needed, and they felt like having a child would give them said satisfaction, okay? When they surveyed women, the women wanted to have children because they felt like it would relieve them of a difficult personal situation, right? So both of those reasonings are selfish reasons. So why is it that when people who don't want children, child-free people, talk about, I don't want to have children because I don't want that responsibility. Raising a child is a big deal. I have to be responsible for somebody else. Why is it seen as selfish when I decide I'm not on board with all of that? But when the person who doesn't have any way to provide for a child, right, decides, okay, well, I'm going to do it anyway. Why is it that their reason is not selfish, but mine is? Or when the person who decides they're going to have a child but don't have, they just want to do it so that they can, right? But they don't have the resources to offer an adequate life. Why is it that they're not selfish, but I am selfish? These are the questions that we need to be asking. I genuinely think that people should have to go through some type of, I don't want to say survey, but like something to where it can gauge of how well of a parent you'd be with the resources you have right now, finance-wise, mentality-wise, physical health-wise. Like all these things are valid as far as figuring out if somebody would be a really good parent. We also have to touch on the fact that a lot of people have these children and expect these children to be perfect carbon copies of them. And then, the child's not. They want to do their own thing because they have their own personality, because they're their own human. And the parents resent them for that, I think we've all seen the cliche, oh, what is it when you're watching a movie and the dad's like, I thought this was your dream. And the son's like, no, dad, it was yours. That happens a lot more than we anticipate. That happens a lot more than we're aware of. And it's just kind of like a lot of parents are living vicariously through their children. And because they're living vicariously through their children, they basically are just kind of like on board to do whatever it takes to get that child to go to Columbia, to take over the car wash, to be a doctor. And it's just kind of like when your child decides that they don't want to go to Columbia and be an accountant, and they decide that they want to be a photographer instead. Oh my gosh, parents resent that. They resent it so much because the way they see it is like, I only had you so for my personal gain and for my personal benefit, right? And when we talk about personal benefit, we also have to talk about the fact that a lot of people have children because they use their child as a retirement plan. And as someone whose first job was in a nursing home serving, the only time I had regulars, so in the nursing home, you can't just come in and dine. It was only people who lived in the nursing home, the facility. It was a retirement home and a nursing home combined. The only time we ever saw people's children was Thanksgiving or Christmas. Those were the only time. I never saw a residence family twice. It was one or the other. And I had worked at that job for a little over 2 years, so I got to know the residents pretty well. And so it was just a simple fact that, a lot of people think that, oh, when I'm going to have kids, they'll take me in, they'll do this, and they're not doing none of that. They're not doing none of that. They're gonna do their best as far as when it comes to care. They're going to put you in the best retirement home they can afford. But it's just kind of like a lot of people are under the impression that they're going to be living with their children when they're older, and they're not. So it's just kind of like, I hear all the time, who's going to take care of you when you get old? Baby, this money, my home health aid, I'm paying somebody to come get me. Like, it's so weird. You cannot use your children as a retirement plan because you didn't effectively save, or you didn't go out of your way to do whatever needed to be done to make sure that you're secured for when you're older. I think that what I would also like to acknowledge is the weight that was lifted off of my shoulders personally when I realized I didn't have to have children, and so I wouldn't. And I say that because a lot of people are working really hard to provide for these imaginary kids that they don't have yet, and they're working themselves to the bone, they're burning themselves out. And the fact that I can just take my time with whatever path I choose, and I don't have to worry about the hustle culture, essentially, right? Because I live in Atlanta, y'all, so it's a lot of hustle culture. Everybody just just try to make the next dollar and invest this and invest that. And the fact that I have zero intentions on investing a day in my life, and I love it. Everybody's trying to learn Bitcoin and crypto and metaverse this and stocks that, and I just sit here and I mind my business because I don't care. I don't have to care. As long as I have a fully funded Roth IRA and other retirement accounts, long-term savings accounts, that's all I need to make sure that I live a really good life. Like, I have zero intention on having to stress myself out to make sure that everybody down the line has money. This bloodline dies with me. And it doesn't really die with me because I have a lot of family members who are having children. Bloodline don't even die with me. I'm just not participating in all of that. And it's just kind of like, I have a lot more ease. I feel like I'm a lot more relaxed. I kind of feel like I'm vibing a lot more than other people, because I can, because I refuse to have children and partake in the difficulties that may entail. I have been breathing well since October 1st, 2020. And I say that because I got my tubes removed then. So ever since then, my life has been bliss. It's been bliss. Like, I'm enjoying every single second of every day. Like, I can sit in my room for days on end and I'm just like having the time of my life because I know I don't have to worry about anybody waking me up. Okay, I get to enjoy my morning coffee in peace. I'm still trying to convince my mom to let me get a cat, but other than that, I'm a vibe. And I feel like I'm always going to be that way because I don't have that responsibility of raising some kids. I'm not trying to convince you not to have kids. That's never my ministry. You're gonna do what you want to do. I solely just want you to research what it really consists of. And I want you to research both sides. I want you to research the side of people who do not want them. I want you to research the side of people who do want them. But I don't want people to get caught up in the romanticizing of motherhood, parenthood, pregnancy, because that's why a lot of women feel bamboozled now. And I'm not just using that as like a bias. No, like the people in my comments are letting me know that they feel bamboozled. So it's just kind of like, just do your research. That's really what it is. If everybody would have done the research that I did to ensure that I was like solid on my decision, I really feel like that more people wouldn't do it. More women specifically would not participate in motherhood. And there's so many different topics that I really could have touched base on as far as just like past motherhood, more so, not past motherhood, but more so like aside from you being the primary caretaker, right? We haven't touched on the topic of men and why they, some of them just choose to just be kind of oblivious when it comes to being, really good caretakers. We haven't touched based on the fact that America has horrible maternity leave. America has horrible daycare rates and stuff like that, right? We haven't touched based on the fact that America just doesn't want to pay people to have kids. We haven't. There's so many different ways to come at this from multiple angles, even for the people, for the people who do want kids but can't have them because of XYZ. But I'm just a firm believer if you're on the fence, it's probably going to be a no for you. Because 9 times out of 10, if you're on the fence and you have said child, you're probably not going to enjoy yourself. And that's just the raw reality of it. So I'm going to go and eat some yogurt and an almond bar and watch TV. Because I ain't got nothing else to do. I'm on vacation from school. I'm vibing. So I hope that this helps somebody. Okay? I'm going to drop some sources in the description box. That way you guys have the ability to do the research on your own. I can't do everything for you, but I can start you off. So I just hope that this helps. I hope that this provides, some type of context for anybody. And if it doesn't, then you can argue in the comments like everybody else. Bye.